Hello again, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. Yes, I am indeed back with a part 2 to this video because when I was uploading the last one, I was looking through the clips and some of the things I wanted to talk about. Hello, Musi. Some of the things I wanted to talk about got cut off, and as usual, being a goof, didn't really notice. So some of the things I wanted to mention, I didn't get a chance to mention, and by then I'd already practically made it. I just wanted to get it uploaded, so I thought, well, might as well do a part 2. I wanted to do a part 2 immediately after, but I was ill for a couple days, so I'm doing it now instead. And in that time, I also have added a few more topics I want to discuss. I have once again got my British cup of tea here. It's got cats on this time instead of a sheep, which is still for some reason a very British thing. Seem to like felines here. Got loads of lion statues everywhere. But anyway, the main things I wanted to discuss was, which I didn't get a chance in the last video, was this kind of weird, quite strange, like anti-white sentiment I've noticed, particularly on YouTube. I have a playlist with some of these videos in, but a few things I noticed. One was this new documentary being brought out by the BBC. If anybody knows anything about the BBC, bit of a dodgy organisation. They do adhere to agendas, you could say, but they're bringing out this new documentary portraying the Anglo-Saxons. That's right, the Germanic people who founded England. They were portraying them as black somehow. I don't know how, but according to them, the Anglo-Saxons were black. Now, if you know anything about the past, particularly in Britain and Europe, and the way they viewed outsiders or other people at that time, you would know it's very unlikely that anyone, particularly from Africa, would have been welcomed there, let alone welcomed into the army, because I saw they were apparently in the army. So yeah, confusing. And it is just completely arbitrary because there is no historical facts to back it up whatsoever, but I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You look back at medieval times and art and things, there's no depiction anywhere really of any foreign people, you could say. And another thing I noticed, well, I saw, was a video of this Nordic, I think he was Swedish but could be wrong, guy who he's a publisher and writer. He creates documentaries and things, and he was approached by this group of Muslims basically asking him to portray the Vikings as Muslims, which obviously he refused because he wants to protect his history. He doesn't want to lie because it's just straight up lying. That's just construed in historical facts. But their whole practically basis, these people, I don't know if they honestly believed it or if they just wanted to believe it. They just wanted people to believe it. But they claimed that these Vikings were Muslims because a ring was found with their kind of, I think it was transcript or symbol or language, something in connection to their culture was found on an item which the Vikings have. Now, if anybody knows anything about the Vikings, they were pillagers, and they would go to all these different places, not just in Europe, but sometimes down to Africa as well, in some historic cases, even over to North America. And they would basically take these items as a trophy, because that's what they did. Now, if you were to go to one of these archaeological sites and you find, say, a cross that one of these Vikings took from England, would you automatically think that that meant the Vikings were Christian? I don't think so. I don't think anybody thinks so. And the strangest, it's just pure weird at this point. It's so absurd, nobody really believes it. And I saw this video which claimed apparently white people, yes, all white people, Europeans, were created in a lab, that's right, in a lab, by this black Muslim scientist 6,000 years ago. Now, how they've calculated that one, I'm not sure, considering Islam itself is only 1400 years old, and I'm not even sure how they hope to back that up with evidence, because to my knowledge, white people did exist anyway 6,000 years ago. I think it was still very early. Europe only just started being inhabited by humans. But yeah, that's a sense of the ridiculousness that these people are trying to peddle. You gotta kind of ask them is, well, if you had all this advanced technology, what happened to it? And how are you using technology like labs and science and chemistry and things, which was literally invented in Europe by Europeans? Unless, of course, you're saying that Europeans are somehow cleverer than you, which would go against your whole philosophy. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about that anymore, because it's so ridiculous. It doesn't even need explaining, really. The other thing I have kind of noticed, and some people may call this conspiracy theory, but as I established in the last video, this isn't really a conspiracy theory anymore. A lot of these things are being confirmed. People, or everyone is talking about it. Like, they know what's going on at this point, plain and simple. But another thing I've noticed these past few years, and it's not just me, I've saw some people on YouTube mention this as well. Someone from Spain also noticed it in their media. And that was in a lot of advertisements, they've been showing like black people, Muslim people, instead of British people. And you have to question, that is a bit strange. And it all comes down to the idea that, and trying to rewrite history to basically undermine culture undermine identity, undermine history, because when people don't have a proper grasp of their history or their identity or their culture, they're more easier to influence and control. And obviously, if they say, oh, we were always here, this is the way it always was, when we know full well it wasn't, it creates this sentiment that they always had this presence, even that this Britain is theirs, it's always been theirs, and they can try and use that whole thing against British people, basically. And a quite disturbing thing I've heard from the internet is they're teaching some of these things in school. Like, why would you teach about these other countries? Now, I'm not saying not to teach about other cultures, history and other histories. It's not like that. It's they're teaching these other things, so the cultures, over English culture. I even saw this child on the internet, and he was like, I don't know why they're even teaching us this, I want to learn about English culture, I want to learn about British culture, I want to learn about our history, which is very correct. But that's another part of it. If you can convince the main people you would want to convince would be children, because they're easily influenced, and then obviously they would go on, they would spread the sentiment and just basically trying to undermine history. And that sounds like a bold statement. A few years ago, people would be like, oh, be quiet, you conspiracy theorist. But this really does seem like that is what is going on. That's what their plan is. That's what their agenda is. And it's not just the country and the way of life and all them things they're trying to undermine. They're also trying to undermine the religion, because obviously they don't take too fondly to other religions. Now, I saw this Christian preacher on this video in the street, and this group of Muslims, once again, went up to this police officer and basically said, that guy preaching offends us. And this is in predominantly Christian country where he has every right to do that. And the police officer went, and I don't remember if it was a man or a woman, but doesn't matter. They went to this Christian preacher and they told him to stop because it offended these group of Muslims. Like, come on. Like, seriously. Stand up for your own people, bro. There's just no excuse for that. And you can't say, oh, I'm worried about being racist and things. It doesn't matter at this point. Are you just gonna have no backbone and let these people completely dominate you? Because they will if you let them. I'm warning you, they will. And me myself, even though I did have a phase of being Christian, and then I went to kind of atheist, and now I'm more spiritual, I guess you could say. I don't particularly believe in God per se, but I do believe in souls and things, but that's a completely different topic for another time. Or what's important is that even though I mightn't share views with this guy, I still support him, and he still has every right to believe whatever he wants and to preach about whatever he wants, as long as it's not harming anyone, which it isn't. Like, I still understand this is a deeply rooted Christian country. It has a deep Christian history and culture, and this is this country's religion, and that is a birthright, being in that country, to be able to express that religion, so long as it's not enforced or harming anyone. But what it seems like these people doing, like they do in their countries they come from, they want to try and enforce this religion. But luckily, a lot of people are waking up to that. They're waking up to the nature of that, which is very good to see. And other main thing, this might be the most controversial thing, but has to be said, I want to touch on, is that there's these people. Now, it's not everyone. I'm not calling names, but it does predominantly seem to be these people that you would typically say are of left political orientation or whatever, or these woke people. And these people are just basically completely ignorant, and if they had their way, their country would be completely doomed, because they have no understanding of some of these people entering the country. They have no idea about their religion, their ideology, their way of life, what life is like back in their home countries. They have no idea what they have done in the past, and what they want to do and try to do, and what they're told to do. They'll dismiss you as a conspiracy theorist or a racist, even when these people have admitted, like in that video, that they're literally here to take over. But it's quite frightening, the level of ignorance. And another video I have on my playlist is this guy, and he was like, well, I'm agnostic, so I wouldn't really mind converting to Islam. And it's like, do you have any understanding that religion at all? And from his comments, he had absolutely no idea whatsoever. Some of these people in particular, they seem to support these people, they seem to support these countries, like Palestine. I'm not going to get into that because it's a whole complicated thing, but one thing I do want to mention is they support these countries, these cultures that not only completely hate them, some of them genuinely want to and do in their countries kill them, just for being different, just for, just for basically having any divergency whatsoever in thought or belief or orientation, who you like and things. Just for having any kind of diversion of the status quo, they would basically be killed. And these people have absolutely no understanding of that whatsoever. They kind of seem to think that they'll share their mentality, their point of view, and they're not. They're just going to do exactly what their religion tells them to do. And unfortunately, their religion tells them that your way of life is wrong, it's sinful, oftentimes it's evil, and that you should even be killed for it. So they seem to think, now, if we treat these people with kindness, with respect, with hospitality, then surely they'll give us back. No, they won't. They're not going to treat you with respect or with kindness or with any kind of hospitality just because you do for them. They're only going to take advantage of it. And that is the facts of the matter. And it's really kind of annoys me when I see some of them supporting and enabling and trying to empower these people with no understanding that you do know these people are completely against you, right? Yeah, they might try and pretend to support you once it suits them to try and get their agenda going. They might pretend to care about equality then, being equal in all things, but then once they're the majority, once they're in power, they seem to care about that very little, and those people will basically be denounced and oppressed, and their entire way of life will just basically be demonized and banned. And I think they have this kind of, I don't know, sympathy. They're like, well, we're different. We sometimes get treated badly because we're different and you're different as well. So maybe we're in the same boat here. And they will be in the same boat until they control the boat, and then you'll be getting thrown out of that boat, is basically what I have to say with that. Like, yeah, some of these people, seriously, they need to read a history book. They need to research these things. They need to actually speak to these people, and they need to be careful. They need to protect themselves. But yeah, going off that, what I want to mention is that kind of a flaw of, I suppose you could say, system we have in the UK, democracy. Now, I still don't know very much about politics, and I'm not trying to support any sort of form of government or ideology in particular. I'm just stating facts. I'm just stating what I see. One of kind of flaws, weakness of democracy, you could say, particularly here in the UK, is that it goes by votes, the majority of people, when it should be primarily orientated by British people and what they want. Because a lot of these people entering this country, do you think they're gonna vote for a party which wants to deport them, or they're gonna vote for a party like the one we have in power now that has no backbone, lets them commit all these crimes and just keeps letting these people pour into the country that adheres to their belief and way of life and things, and just basically says, yeah, you can do what you want, we'll support you, we'll even support you over our own people. Which one of them do you think they're going to vote for? And this is where it gets dangerous, as the more and more people come here, the more people are going to be voting for that over British people, and so it just gets worse and worse. You know, there needs to be some that I do agree that does need to be some sort of action taken, some sort of stronger national unit, national identity that basically says, right, we can keep these things we need to keep these things absolutely at the core. British values, British culture, all that. We keep them at the core in every party, every government. We prioritise that. We prioritise British people over that. Doesn't mean you can't vote for different types of parties, different types of policies and things, but it should be a law that those parties have to keep them core values. They can't go against them in any way. They have to keep them going. And one of them, I would say, would be, this may be controversial, but one of them I would say would be only letting British people vote, or at least people that have been identified to have been fully integrated into British culture. Otherwise, they're just going to vote for these parties that favour them and their agenda, basically. And you have to ask yourself, if their population keeps growing, how long before they make their own party? How long before they make like a Islam party of Britain or Muslim party of Britain? How long before they do that? Because some of these people have already got into power. I do think that'll change, but I do think I'm not trying to do a whole doom and gloom scenario here. I really think the opposite is coming, because literally saw upwards of 3 million people on the streets in London yesterday. So not yesterday, 13th of September. But if that doesn't say enough, then I don't know what will. But yeah, you just have to think about these things. Say in a fictional scenario where the population did grow and they made like a Islamic Party of Britain or something. Needless to say, who do you think these people are going to be voting for? Most certainly won't be the British parties, I'll tell you that much. Oh yeah, just something, not fear-mongering. I really don't think that will happen. It's just something to think about. And I know the parties we have right now, none of them are perfect, but none of them are really going to be perfect. But any is certainly better than the one we have now. And that brings me nicely onto my other point, which is, I think politics and government and a lot of things in human society is just completely and utterly flawed. A lot of people often say, all politicians, they basically are just completely corrupt, don't have any good bone in their body. And I agree mostly, though there are some kind of people that really are for the people. But it's basically a system that enables this corruption, enables this little group of elitist people to basically have all the power. When I say power, I mean power over every aspect of society, over the main people, the majority of people. And that's exactly what our government is trying to do now. But they don't seem to understand that in creating this division, creating these things, they're actually starting the one thing they fear the most and the one thing they didn't want to happen the most, which is their downfall, which will come at the hands of people realising these things, awakening to these things, standing together, working together, and unity basically, because they can try and do all these things against people. And when they're all fighting over these useless things, distracted by these useless everyday things, focused on things that really don't matter, really aren't important, then it's easy to do that. But once they have a realization, once they have a drive at togetherness, then there is practically nothing they can do against that, because think about it, they could take on 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. But when it starts to get to 5,000 people, 10,000 people, 25, 50, 100,000 people, 500,000 people, 1 million people, 3 million people, like in London, there is nothing they can do against that. And that is what we really need. And it's already happening, just a call, action. We've had enough. And I'm really glad to see that is happening. But people may ask, well, if you think governments are a failed concept, then what's your better idea? Is it not the best thing we have? And I would say, by far it isn't. It's just these other ideas don't get to see the light of day. And there's loads of creative people with wonderful ideas, how government, how society, how science, how infrastructure, how medicine, how all these things could be changed and developed with these really amazing ideas. But they just never get to see the light of day, because it just, a lot of humanity, some areas may claim to be more progressive than the others, but when it comes down to it, humanity is very conservative and it fears change. So even when presented with something better, even when they know that an old way is worse, they just don't understand it. They get completely fearful of it, and they say, some of these people basically, they get mocked or called names or called radicals and things, just for trying to promote something different, a different way of life, a different way of society. And I know there are some people that have negative versions of that, but there's also people that have very positive versions of that. And I know people like, well, if we just go with that, we just give these people the light of day, then what if it all goes wrong? And I would say, well, then you'll see, at least give them a chance, and in some way, shape or form, even if it's a social experiment or things like that, at least give them a chance. And you never know, it might work, it might be right. We just had this practically same way of life for so long, little changes here and there, But when it comes down to fundamental human society, a lot of people just don't want that to change. And I understand it, but if we want these issues to really go away, if we want to tackle them at the core, then that needs to change. Everything needs to change. And what you may say, what do I think governments should be like? Well, I think it should be more of a council of volunteerism, contributionism. Basically, people with these skills, these passions, that want to do these things for, out of the good of their heart, for the everyday people, not for power, not out of corruption, just genuine. And the structure we have now is just not meant for genuine people. It's meant for corrupt people, it's meant for horrible people. And that has to change if we want society to actually improve. Second, it's got to the point where there's just a complete lack of trust in these systems. Can't trust the government anymore, can't even trust the police anymore, have to take matters into your own hands. And if that doesn't show that these systems are flawed, at the very least flawed, even a failed concept, it's time for something new, then I don't know what will. But I do think as future generations are born, they will start to see these things and create these things. As we've noticed, there's a massive difference between the boomers and the current generation. You could say, what I seem to notice is the old generation, they're more doers, they're very action oriented, hard work orientated, but they're also very conservative. Sometimes they can have quite extreme views, and they basically come from times of conflict where they think, you need to force and control everything to keep things stable and fight people, where the current generation is like, no, that's not the way, that's not how we do things. We can try to solve these things peacefully, diplomatically. It might not have as much as a drive sometimes, but they're still but they do have a drive in something they're passionate in, and they can be very creative, very imaginative and innovative, and they can come up with these new ideas. And the one thing they have that these past generations don't have as much, they accept each other and they work together and they have unity. And I think that's something which is really good for society. I kind of got a little off topic there, but it's all right. I think that needs to be said as well. So yeah, at the current time, we just need to individually try our best to make a change, make a stand up for ourselves, stand up for our country, for our women, our children, our way of life, and our individuality. Just stand up for it and try and contribute and make a change and help where we can. Just support our fellow human beings. Just have kindness and compassion, but not weakness. Protect what's yours as well. call these people out, stand up for yourself and just stand up for everything. Go out and make a mark, try and make a change, just in some way, shape or form, no matter what. Like I'm doing with this video, it's to show I'm standing up for myself, I'm standing up for my people. I've had enough, basically just some kind of stand, and it doesn't matter. I don't care how many views the videos get, because it's about the message, it's about making a stand, and as long as you send that message out, make a stand in some way, shape or form, no matter how small, that will make a ripple. The ripple turn into a tidal wave and things will change. But you need to take some sort of action. You can't just sit around and do nothing hoping other people will make the change for you. You need to try, and if you're serious about all these things, you need to try and at least do something to show that you are, even if it's talking about it, making videos, putting a post online, even going out to these riots and things, just anything you can basically. And one thing that reminds me of, I want to mention with these riots, is last time after those horrible Southport stabbings, rest in peace those people, and there's loads of riots erupting across Britain. Something felt a bit phony, something felt a bit off about them, and I've heard that they weren't real protests. They were basically funding, and people may say, how, why? Well, when you look at those protests to the ones now, what's the difference? Well, it's quite a big and obvious difference, and that is the last ones, they were violent, they were attacking people, they were destroying things, they were causing chaos. The ones now have been completely peaceful, just completely, utterly peaceful. Protests, marches, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Can't solve a problem on the level it was created. You can't fight fire with fire. You need to try something else. You need to be better. You need to go beyond, which exactly what the rioters right now are doing. Are completely peaceful, just people standing up for their country. Not causing any chaos, any harm whatsoever. The only people that are causing harm is these police attacking them, and these organisations like the BBC trying to frame them as racist, radicals and things, cause, stir things up and cause even more chaos and division. But we know it's not true. You can literally see it. Millions of people have been there, they've witnessed it. It's completely peaceful. With these riots a while ago, they weren't peaceful. And the reason I think that is basically to create a sentiment that, riot and rebellion is bad. It causes chaos, it causes destruction, it causes just death, and it causes all these horrible things. So don't riot, don't protest. Don't want any of that at all. Don't want any sort of rebellion, because, oh no, look at what it causes. It's that sentiment, basically. And that comes down, that connected with that rewriting history thing, it basically comes down to manipulation, psychological warfare, psychological manipulation, just trying to mess with people's heads, make them question themselves and not know the truth, not know what's going on, make them all disorganized and things, is basically what I think is the idea behind that. But as everything, it didn't work, because people, they know the truth now, and there's no going back from that at all, ever. And people say, well, and all this chaos, when all this chaos caused by these people, when will these people's reign of terror end? Particularly these criminals. I've just discussed about the government. Needs to be a whole change, I think, for that to end, but people are standing up, and I think they will remove the current government and put something much better in, even if it isn't perfect. But down to the core issue, when will these people, these criminals, when will they ever change? Will they ever stop doing what they're doing? And I would say they can be they can, and they will, they are, and they have been stopped. They will be stopped in Britain, in France, in Spain, in Australia, in Germany, in Austria, and the USA, and all these places in Europe and the West, basically. I think they will be stopped, but in their own countries, no, not just yet. That will not be stopped until their religion, Islam, either completely dies out, or has a reformation of some kind. Now, I did see this interesting video that actually showed facts where in Muslim countries, lots of people are starting to leave the religion, especially, was it in the UAE or Saudi Arabia? Basically, a quarter of the country no longer believe in that religion, and that is because of the rise of the internet. They can access true knowledge, they can access knowledge, they can access history, they can access information, and they can speak to other people with other different views and ways of life, and basically share perspectives. And then they basically say, they're basically like, oh, because a lot of these people, they just basically go along with this because it's what they're taught, and they're taught not to question, because questioning is bad and questioning is sinful. And a lot of these people, I'm not even sure if they entirely read their book, because I've researched some of it. There are quite a lot of contradictions in it, which they don't ever seem to point out. But yeah, point is, and this is quite the statement, but it's the cold hard truth. The nature of the religion is that it enables, in many cases, it supports these horrible people and what they want to do, because they are taught these horrible things. They're okay, they're good, they're allowed to be done to inferior people who don't follow your religion. That's just the fact of the matter, is that they're taught these things are okay, they're encouraged to do these things. And when you have these people with these troubles, with these mental issues, with these psychological issues, with these urges, what do you think's going to happen to them in a society which enables that? Well, it's self-explanatory. They have no support whatsoever. They don't have support from family or friends because often they control their family. Often their friends, their society shares points of views. They'll just be told, well, that's the religion. No, they can't. There's no psychology. There's no therapy. They can't go and speak to someone about it. They can't go and get help for it because, it's just not set up properly for any of that. And they're not allowed to question. They're not allowed to question if these things are wrong. And they can't, speak to these. A lot of them don't have access. Well, some either don't have access to people outside their countries with these different points of views that could teach them better things, try to help them, show them why that's not okay, why that's wrong, and why being the opposite to that is more positive and beneficial to everyone involved. And even if they do, a lot of them people are basically brainwashed to not talk to people from the outside because what they're saying, what they're promoting, it's wrong, it's the wrong way of life, it's sinful. It's just very rock and a hard place with that. And it's a very difficult topic because what do you do when you have basically some of these states, some of these countries like Afghanistan, Iran, basically totalitarian, go against their religion and you're done for. So these people, they don't stand a chance to begin with. A lot of these people, they might not even be bad people. They just do these horrible things because it's what their religion tells them to do, because they have no frame of reference. They have no point of view for anything different or why that might be wrong. It doesn't justify it at all. But I'm just saying that is the state of a lot of these people in these countries, and they come here trying to do that as well. And especially when they are taught things like, women have to be covered up. What do you think happens when they come from countries where women can wear what they want, where they're completely free and have equal rights and things? And I have spoken to these some of these people. One time I had a debate with this guy. I don't know where he was from, but he's basically trying to mock Western culture and saying all kind of horrible things. Saying your women aren't covered up, you're all perverts and everything. And mate, no, we know you're just reflecting your own things onto us, because look at your book, look at your history, look at the reason why your religion tells women to cover up. It's because frankly that's what you are. In these in Western countries, women can live completely safe and free and happy way of life, without vast majority, without getting harmed at all. Yet in these other countries, they get harmed all the time, harmed for not adhering to the religion. So in Iran, that poor woman who got murdered just for not wearing her headdress. It's completely terrible. Yeah, bit of a ramble there. Just basically, my point is the core issue is a religion that practically enables these barbaric things, these evil things that hasn't changed in over 1,000 years. And that's the main thing that keeps it going, is basically they are completely terrified and adverse to any kind of change, any little diversion, no matter how small. They're very, very conservative. They basically want to keep it the same, keep the way of life the same forever, for as long as they can, have no change. They are completely and utterly terrified by the prospect of anything new, anything different, any sort of change. And they will literally, many of them will literally die before they accept or try to make any sort of change. Well, that's the main problem. It's a religion, an ideology, nothing to do with race, nationality, or culture, or countries, but it's just these countries and cultures which have that ideology, and people that have that ideology, which, in essence, the core problem is they come from a religion which promotes and enables these evil things and is completely adverse to changing it. They will not change it under any circumstances, no matter what. Till it either dies out or is forced to change, or people finally wake up, which they are doing right now, luckily. They keep saying, all these other religions like Christianity, they've had reforms. I don't know if they've ever had a reform. And it's like, I saw this interview, Tommy Robinson interviewing this Muslim guy, and it's like, will they ever have a reform? Will they ever stop? And he's like, no, I don't know. Probably no, probably not. But yeah, luckily a lot of people are waking up for that, and we can try help them. But we need to focus on our own issues first, and just kind of send them support and knowledge and wish them the best. That is my 2 cents on the matter, basically. And I want to say that being against evil, terrorism, and horrible things, which I don't want to say, being against those people, that ideology, that way of life, that being against that and those people, it's not racism. It's not wrong in any way, shape or form. Never let anybody tell you it's wrong. If somebody came and tried to tell me that was wrong, it would not end well, because I would never let anyone do them things or promote them things in any way. I am very protective of people and my country and myself, and I would just not stand for it at all, and nobody should, and luckily people aren't. But yes, my statement is, being against evil is not wrong. It's not racist. It's not radical. It's just common sense. It's just common human decency to do what's right and to do what's good. And, you know, just make this planet a better place when you leave it, as opposed to when you found it, when you came here, just a little bit better. And those people want to make it a little bit worse, and I will always fight against that, and I'm very determined. I won't stop fighting against that. I won't stop till I find a way, some way, some shape or form. I've always found a way, and I will find ways to make this, to fight against that evil, transform that evil, heal that evil, whatever needs to be done. Just get rid of that evil, that darkness, turn it into light, turn it into positivity, turn it into kindness, compassion, humour, whatever needs to, in whatever way that needs to be done, either through talking or sharing or action or knowledge, whatever way, shape or form. I will do it, and I will not stop doing it. It's a mission I have that I will be doing for the rest of my life. People basically want to come here, live their life, not just in Britain, but their whole life. They just, while they're here on this planet, they want to cause as much chaos, as much harm as possible, and make this place a little bit worse than how they found it. And I will always fight to do the opposite of that, to make people happy and to support people, to uplift people, and to protect people. And I will make sure that this place is not made worse. I will make sure it is made better than when I found it. Because people will always naturally, eventually, some people unfortunately, right at the end of their life or their whole life, but some way, shape or form, society grows and learns. People will eventually all realise and awaken and follow that just goodness, I suppose. Might take some time. People still need to learn a lot and have a lot of experience to see them things, but it will happen. Basically, evil's days are numbered, and we can see that looking back at history. If you see all the previous generations in the world compared to today is a lot more peaceful, it's a lot more cooperative, it's a lot more free, and I really do believe that will continue. But like I will reiterate, if these evil people ever do try to harm this country or take over it in any way, they will find there are a lot of people that are not like me. They don't go to diplomacy or peace first or understanding first, and I try to do that when I can. But if there's some people that are just completely like delusional and like enraged, then I will obviously protect myself and protect people, and I will hate them if I have to. But you'll find that there are people that are far more angrier, far more violent, and far more radical than me, that will want to get rid of them people. And I don't just mean get rid of them off our island. I mean literally get rid of them. And if they keep going, they will awaken that spirit, because in that country we do have that spirit. Like I say, not proudly, British people, they have been some of the most brutal and ruthless and violent people in human history, and the most determined people. Just look at World War II, what we achieved when we had a drive and motivation and determination came together and worked together. You know, in Germany, it seemed completely unstoppable, seemed to overpower us in every way. But that gave us, that enemy gave us a drive and a motivation to come together, to work together, and we achieved the impossible. Basically achieved, it really was a miracle. And these evil people, these criminals, are making themselves into that new enemy. And once they ignite our spirit, they will not just be stopped, they will not just be beaten, they will not just be gotten rid of, they will be completely and utterly annihilated. Because after it comes out what some of these things have done, and they're at the mercy of the people they did these things to, well, it's not going to be a very pretty picture for them, but it will be what they deserve. But yeah, that is pretty much everything I have to say. Rule Britannia. Have a wonderful day, and ta-ra for now.